Hello everyone, welcome to my full DLC walkthrough of the Left Behind DLC on The Last of Us Remake on grounded difficulty with no damage and no crafting. There's no upgrades, there's no shiv doors, there's no training manuals, there's nothing like that in this DLC because this DLC is separate from the main game, so no damage and no crafting are the only parameters that I will be working with for this DLC. And really, if I wasn't going for no crafting, I wouldn't have any crafting materials anyway, because you're not given a lot of crafting supplies on grounded difficulty, it seems. And a lot of the supplies are kind of pointless. But this is the first time I am ever doing a walkthrough of the Left Behind DLC for The Last of Us. You might be wondering why I didn't do this for the remastered version initially. Well, it's because a famous YouTuber by the name of Anthony Caliber, he discovered a glitch that allows you to get the Left Behind DLC done in 9 minutes and 35 seconds, I believe. And it involves some tricky camera work, it involves going outside the map, and it's just Naughty Dog didn't patch those kind of things, so that's why he was able to utilize those glitches very easily in order to get to the DLC very fast. And because of the fact that this existed, it kind of destroyed any incentive for me to do the Left Behind DLC for The Last of Us Remastered. But on the remake, Naughty Dog has patched those glitches until somebody else finds another way to glitch this DLC and just skip a lot of the encounters entirely. But I don't really understand why you would want to skip out on the encounters. I mean, the Left Behind DLC is so much fun, and by the way, for this walkthrough, I will not be including any of the past sequences. This walkthrough will focus entirely on the present-day sequences, where Ellie is trying to save Joel, and there are a couple of infected, and there are some humans as well. These are the same humans from the university area before Joel was impaled. And the first two present-day sequences are just going to be encounters with infected. We only deal with one clicker in this first present-day sequence, and then we'll move on to the next present-day sequence, which is going to involve stalkers, some runners, and some clickers. This first encounter with the stalkers, there are bricks around the environment, but I had a lot of trouble finding these bricks, and I remember vaguely the placement of these bricks back in the remastered version, but it was just so hard to find these bricks. And in the end, I ended up relying upon the ammo drops that the stalkers were dropping, so I kept getting pistol ammo, and then I used the Resident Evil 4 mechanic of shooting these enemies in the leg. They get put into a flinch animation, and then I can punish their flinch animation with an animation. And they just kept on dropping ammo every time I killed them because I don't have any ammo here. I mean, I don't think it's going to be the same case on repeat playthroughs if you're doing the sequence with no ammunition. But you're going to start off the sequence with no ammunition anyway, so maybe it's going to be quite consistent. But I take out that guy, I have to navigate through this area. There's a stalker right there, so I'm going to aim for the leg. Stalkers on this game are a lot easier to shoot at compared to the remastered version, because in the remastered version, stalkers moved exactly like runners, and so they flailed around a lot. But these guys, they have a bit more stability in their jogging animation, so it makes it easier to hit their legs. Just be very careful of their hands. If you're aiming for their left leg, their left arm is kind of above their left leg, so it can be very easy to shoot the wrong body part at times. And this was something that was proving to be a bit of a hindrance when I was trying to deal with the humans, because in the final encounter of this DLC for the present day, there are a couple of humans that don't have any weapons, and they're programmed to rush you. And I always try to shoot them in the leg, and it is very effective. I mean, at times, I would end up shooting the wrong body part, and this game, unfortunately, removes the whole ability to punish any flinch animation with an animation. Like, in The Last of Us Remastered, shooting an enemy with the pistol would make them flinch, and then you could immediately follow up with a unique melee attack animation that would instantly kill the enemy. It was something very specific to stuns generated by the pistol, and why they decided to remove that on the remake, I will never understand. It just comes across as half-assed work, like Naughty Dog was trying to trim the amount of work they were doing on this game because of the fact that they were trying to make this game like graphically advanced and make the animations look a little bit more believable, and maybe that put too much strain on their memory. So because of the fact that the memory space was being overloaded, they had to cut some animations from the game. that's just what it feels like. It just feels like they're taking a cheap shortcut in their work, almost like what new Capcom did when they designed Village of Shadows difficulty for Resident Evil Village, and they removed animations by the drove, and it's stupid. But we've just done this little sequence right here, and now we have the stealth sequence. So I messed up on the stealth sequence, and there's actually a blooper for the sequence, because what I was trying to do was I was trying to take a path that I normally take that puts me right in front of a clicker, and I was going to kill the clicker, but what happened was the clicker was kind of far away from me, or like it was kind of close, I should be saying, but I didn't think I was in range to do the triangle attack where you press triangle and Ellie does that stab attack animation. So what I tried to do was throw a brick at the clicker in order to stun it and then just finish it off that way. But what happened was I was in range to do the stealth kill on the clicker, but Ellie threw her brick before actually initiating the animation, and what happened was after Ellie finished the stabbing animation, the brick made collision with the ground somehow, and the enemies were alerted, and then from there a series of errors occurred, and so I had to rethink my approach to this sequence. That didn't involve me having to go in front of that clicker whatsoever. So that clicker that I just went past, that second clicker, that's the one that gave me some trouble. And I believe on the remastered version, when you're doing this sequence, you have 2 clickers and 1 runner patrolling this area, but on this remake, it's only the clickers that are patrolling. So that right there is a really good design choice, because, you know, as I mentioned before with The Last of Us Remastered, runners had the ability to instantly spot you, and they twitched around a lot because of their very finicky animation priorities, and just the transition between individual animations. It had some really strange errors like that, and for them to not consider that when giving the runners the ability to instantly spot you, I don't really understand why you have these kind of animations for the runners, yet you don't put in the ability for them to actually take the time to see you before they detect you, like how the runners are designed in this game. Like, the runners on this game are better designed compared to the runners from the remastered version, but the clickers in the remastered version are way better than the clickers in the remake version. But I already discussed this, so I'll just continue on with the commentary. So we've just done that stealth sequence. That's a very simple stealth sequence. And now that we've done that, we're on the last present-day sequence. And right there, I wanted to go into this last present-day sequence with minimal ammunition. And you'll notice that I'm going to skip out on all of the ammo drops that are generated by the enemies when you kill them. I'm only going to try to pick up the ammunition that is already set in the world before I get to the final encounter of the sequence. Just because doing that encounter with minimal ammunition, you're going to have a better understanding as to how you're supposed to approach the sequence. And then from there, I am going to pick up the ammunition dropped by the enemies when they do die in that sequence. But this right here, you've got to wait here for a bit. The guy on the right, he for some reason looks back over here. You didn't see it because it's very dark, but he was looking back over here. So you got to wait until he goes inside of the building, and then you need to jog, pick up the arrow and the bullet, and then you need to kill this guy. One thing that I really don't like about this game is the arrow pickup animation, because I've saved it as a blooper, but the animation where Joel or Ellie picks up the arrow and they have to place it in their backpack, it obstructs your ability to pick up other ammunition nearby. And so in one of the bloopers that I've saved for this video, I pick up the arrow and I'm trying to pick up the pistol bullets, but I'm having to watch the entire animation. And I was in a dangerous position where the enemies could easily spot me, and in fairness, it was kind of my fault, but at the same time, you didn't have to deal with those kind of animations in the remastered version, just obstructing your ability to pick up other ammunition. So, I'm not a big fan of that in this game. Also, right here, you've got to immediately throw a brick. If you wait long enough, other enemies will spawn in, other humans. So, in total, you can get 4 humans if you wait long enough. But if you throw that brick, you will only have to deal with the 2 humans and a couple of infected, so you will disrupt the spawn of the 2 additional enemies. And right here, I'm playing it kind of risky, and I'm trying to take out these humans, because sometimes the humans can succeed in killing the infected. I mean, most of the time the infected do successfully kill the humans, but You know, it's kind of 50-50, I would say, with whether the humans or the infected will win. So in order to increase the chances of the infected actually winning that combat scenario, I'm going to get into the fray, and I'm going to deal with any humans that get near me. It's dangerous, and I don't recommend doing that. But, you know, if you're highly confident that the infected will win, go for it, but sometimes they'll not win. And dealing with humans in stealth encounters, pretty tricky, even with two enemies. And you're in a high position, so it's pretty easy for the enemies to spot you because, you know, they're down below, they can easily see you up there, so you gotta wait for them to move, and it's pretty tricky to do. And this right here is very, very simple. This is a really well-designed sequence. But right here, you've got to get to this position in the time frame that was shown, and then you need to take either your brick or bottle, stun this guy, and then shoot him with your bow and arrow. And then you need to jog, but mantle over here and pick up the pistol blow right over here. Still remain jogging, and you're gonna need to climb up here, and then get through the door, and you've done that very easy sequence. That right there it works pretty well on the remaster version as well, but I'm having to take a different path on the remake given the awareness of the enemies on grounded. So this part, I had to restart like 2 or 3 times for this recording. Actually, no, I think it was just 1 time. But the pattern is always the same, so whenever the guy signals that he can hear the horse, these enemies will run to these set positions. So this guy will be right here, and the guy on the other side of this floor, he'll go to a set position, and you'll need to crouch and shoot this guy with the bow and arrow in order to do a stealth kill against him. And then this guy right here, it's random whether he jumps to the left or he jumps forward, but remaining behind that cover, you can easily take him out. And if he does jump to the left, he'll most likely be distracted by the body, and because he's close to you, if you press square to do the corner takedown, you'll get it. And you just gotta wait for him to finish the animation. If you time it too early, you'll miss. If you time it too late, he'll alert the enemies, and it will screw with their pathing. And if you do screw with their pathing, this guy right here will not be mantling up these crates at the time that he's going at right now. Or you can get the Molotov guy mantling up these crates. It's very random that way, so you gotta make sure you aren't being seen when you're doing these animations, and you'll be fine. But right there, this guy gets distracted by the body, so I'm able to take him out with a stealth kill. Because I'm far enough away from the enemies, they're not hearing the noise generated by me stabbing these enemies. And right there, throw a brick, and you need to find this guy. This guy is random where he is. Sometimes he's very close to you, other times he's off to the left, but you gotta take him out. I'm focusing entirely on the guys with guns. However, these 2 enemies right here, they're forced to stay by the door. They are restricted to that area. So regardless of whether you're in combat or whether you're in stealth, these enemies will always stay by the door. So I need to focus entirely on the enemies that are on my level. There are 2 enemies left. So here comes this guy with a gun, and then the other guy doesn't have any weapons. So this is the perfect opportunity to do the corner kill right here. And he was close enough, so I pressed square, and I'm able to stab him around the corner. That right there is the main strength with Ellie that Joel doesn't have. Joel has to grab the enemies, but Ellie doesn't have to grab them. She can immediately go into that animation if the enemies are unaware and they are close enough to allow you to hit them around the corner. But now that these 2 enemies are dead, the only 2 enemies left are just the guys by the door. And once again, these enemies are restricted to that part of the area. They will be in cover, they'll be like patrolling in that general area, and then at some point, one of the guys will say to go for the door, so one guy will go for the door, and then the other guy will cover him, and this will allow you to get the drop on them. But you've got to make sure you have ammunition, and hopefully one of the enemies that you killed will drop ammunition. This is precisely why I restricted myself to set ammo placements within the environment before coming into the sequence, because ammunition is a crucial factor to consider when doing the sequence, and there are 2 phases to this encounter. There's this phase and then the second phase. The second phase is the hardest, and how much ammunition you have by the end of the sequence will dictate how effective your strategy is for the second phase. And right here, I've killed one of the guys, and now this guy, he's trying to find me, but he's just staying in cover, so I'm just going to throw a brick at him. Luckily for me, he emerges from cover, and there we go, he's dead. Now you just need to search the environment for supplies. There are 2 set ammo placements within this area, so luckily for me, I get 1 arrow, and then there's a set ammo placement for the arrow, and there is a set pistol drop over in the back area right over here, as well as a couple of bricks and bottles, mainly bricks, but the bricks are back in that previous area near Weston's Pharmacy. So there's 1 brick, and right here, I'm restricting myself to the scenario where I only have 1 arrow and 1 pistol bullet, because this is what you'll most likely have if you get very unlucky with the enemy drops. and you have to rely upon the set ammo placements within the world. So we start the second phase, and this sniper right here, this sniper is programmed to fire one shot at you as part of a scripted animation. So there's a scripted shot, now you need to run, and then you need to crouch. This path is very important, and when you crouch is very important as well, so that you can trigger a last known position. And also, you need to hug the left-hand side. Did you see that awareness indicator on the left? That shows a guy on the left-hand side was seeing me, so I've got to hide on the left-hand side of this escalator. And also, you'll want to remain near the bottom of this escalator, because at times, one of these two enemies on this floor can actually see you if you're too high up the escalator. And you've got to make sure that these enemies are either off to the right, or are in a position where you can stun one guy with the brick and run, or use your bow and arrow. But this right here is kind of the original strategy I had in mind for phase 1, but I've applied it here because it's a lot more effective. So these guys that have no weapons, they're always the first enemy to rush you down. They're a lot more aggressive in rushing you down compared to the guys with guns. So I'm going to use the bricks on this part right over here in order to dispatch these enemies. And now that they're dead, I need to trigger a last known position and just dispatch the enemies one at a time. So I need to crouch. The last known position seems to be more effective at triggering if you crouch. So you notice how the awareness indicators are still up because I'm jogging. As soon as I crouch, they go away. I don't know why this is the case. It's very strange programming. I mean, I assume my last known position was back near this part right here. When the awareness indicators go away isn't always when the last known position is generated. The last known position can trigger even before the awareness indicators go away. So that right there, that guy was in that investigative state. He was kind of in that transitory phase between a combat status and a stealth status. But because the awareness indicator wasn't on screen, I was able to do the corner takedown on him. And I was also able to dispatch that guy. And I've grabbed his sniper rifle. Right now, I'm not seeing any enemies coming this way, so I'm going to make noise with my pistol, because the pistol's kind of throwaway at this point, unless I'm trying to stun enemies in the leg. So I made noise, I've generated my last known position, the awareness indicators have gone away, so these enemies are going to slowly push up over here, and I have plenty of ammunition to deal with them. I have the sniper rifle, I have the bow and arrow, I have a brick, I have the corner kill method. I can easily dispatch these enemies. And some of these enemies are remaining near the door right now because they're supposed to. That's the set program you got to realize with the sequence. Two of the enemies are programmed to be near the door at all times because they know Joel is in there. They want to get him, and they're trying to go for the door in order to flush you out. I've never really had it where the enemies have successfully opened the door. I've never had that happen before in a Left Behind playthrough, or even in a walkthrough. So I don't know how long it takes for the enemies to get through the door, but the time it takes for them to get through the door is pretty lenient. Also right there, that was pretty risky. That guy was coming around the corner, and I decided to use a brick on him, but the other guy was looking at me. And one thing you gotta realize about the remake that happens very consistently, if you go into the stabbing animation, the enemies can seem to shoot you during the animation. They will shoot you after you get out of the animation, but not during the animation. I believe in the remaster, the enemies had the ability to shoot you during the animation of stabbing the enemy. So that's why it was a bit more risky in the remaster. But on the remake, you might as well go for it as long as the other enemy isn't so close to you. If the other enemy is pretty close to you, he'll most likely get a shot in. But because that guy was kind of far away from me, but at the same time a little close to me, like at medium range, he was able to miss his shot, and I was able to get away unscathed. And also, after I killed that one guy, the infected spawned in, and somehow the humans annihilated the infected in about 10 to 15 seconds. That's what it feels like in this recording. I have never really seen the infected get killed that quickly before. They must have been so far away from the humans, and because of that, the humans, they were able to shoot them very easily. Normally, whenever an enemy is close to a human ally or a human enemy, they go into the state of running away from that enemy, and I'm guessing that's why the infected were easily dominated over, because they were pretty far away from the humans. But the guy that was previously shooting me while I was stabbing that one guy, he's now gone back over here to try to help out his friends, and I don't really know where he is. I don't know if he was killed by the infected. I think it's just these two enemies that are left, but that right there, I was able to fire my bow and arrow at that guy before he had a chance to dodge. That's something you gotta realize with the remake as well. Whenever the enemies go into that grace period animation and you're in the middle of aiming at them, they do this pre-programmed dodge to stop you from killing them. And luckily for me, I was able to fire my bow before he had a chance to finish his grace period animation and do that dodge, so he died very quickly. And now it's just this guy. So I'm going to try to aim my brick at him and throw it, but he gets out of the way, so now I'm going to use my arrow to dispatch him, and that is the last enemy for this sequence. And there we go, you've done it. You have beaten the Left Behind DLC. All that's left is a chase sequence that takes place in the past, but it's pretty simple to do because you're just following Riley, and I have not included it in this video. And all that's left now is just a bunch of bloopers. There's 2 bloopers. So this first blooper, I throw the brick and I do the stealth kill on accident, and then the brick somehow completes the animation, even though I cancel the animation entirely. And then this right here is where the arrow pickup animation screws me. See, I'm trying to pick up the pistol bullets, but the arrow pickup animation is getting in the way because I have to watch the animation before it allows me to pick up the pistol bullets. And again, that was partially my fault because I was still remaining out in the open, so that guy was able to spot me because that guy has the ability to go backwards sometimes. His pathing is kind of random, but the strategy for the sequence is still the same overall. It's not a problem whatsoever what kind of path he chooses to take. But if I just remained near the store, I could have easily picked up the arrow and the pistol bullets without being spotted. So I'm just going to attribute it to my own fault for just making this issue with the arrow pickup animation known. But this concludes my first ever walkthrough of the Left Behind DLC. Thank you all for watching, and you take care now.